bring James into this conversation before we shift to the Kings and ask you what is the crux of your concern? Just their ability to do it again, or their ability to be better than they were last year?
The ability to not only repeat that but actually finish it this time. And there's sports references to that being able to be done. I think when I think about this situation, Jesse, when I think about the 2003 Red Sox, and there's maybe no more of a gut-wrenching loss than how they lost to the Yankees in that Game 7. Aaron Boone hits a home run. And I got to imagine Red Sox fans everywhere at that point, like, it's just never going to happen. Like, this is just never going to happen. It doesn't get any closer than that. You didn't have – you were up, what were they up, 3-0 in the 7th?
I think something like that.
In that game, and they don't take out Pedro, and he gives up 3. The Yankees were dead. You had them. And then you end up losing that game. And I'm sure Red Sox fans everywhere were like, it's never going to happen. And then the very next year, it happens. And you think about, like, basketball-wise, the Spurs against the Heat, obviously they had won some before that, but the way they lost to the Heat with the Ray Allen shot, they went back up to the mountaintop and got it done. Kobe with the Lakers getting beat down by the Celtics, they went back to the mountain. So those are all different than football. I understand that, but those are sports examples of being able to take a gut-wrenching loss like that and bounce back. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen here this year.
Real quick, I feel like the difference with those teams too, though, is that, like, the Red Sox lost once to the Yankees, like the 100 years or whatever you want to call it. That's different teams and all that, but they lost once to the Yankees, then got it over the next year. Like, the Lakers won the title the next year or whatever. The Niners have been at this for like 4 or 5 seasons. Like, I wonder how much, like, that matters.
That's true, but I thought last year was the year. That's why I'm only looking at that year. I'm like, that was the one, and to lose that one was tough.
James, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you have to worry. Like, first of all, I think the Niners will be fine. Like, I get that, like, historically it's tough for a team to lose the Super Bowl, come back the next year and get right back there. But you got to be concerned that they're turning into the Buffalo Bills of the 90s at this point, where they can get there, but they can't get over the hump. And to me, like, look, this is the most talented team in the NFL. I don't think it's even all that close. But that doesn't matter, because there's one player out there that can beat anyone on any given day, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And the league is basically they moved away from one guy who was like this and Tom Brady, and all of a sudden another one popped up. And so everyone in the league is on notice that, like, look, it doesn't matter how good you are. You have to be so spectacular on one given day, and then hope that that guy doesn't have the ball with a minute left and, within striking distance. And that's tough. Like, I don't think the 49ers have anything to be ashamed of or anything else, but I do think, like, there's this, like, huge issue that's standing against you. And I don't think it's like getting the monkey off your back or whatever term you want to, to break through. It's just realistically, if you're in the Super Bowl and you're matched up against Patrick Mahomes, you're in for it, and you better be ready to play all the way up until the last snap. And the 49ers have, unfortunately, have fallen short.
Yeah, I understand. I'm looking at this from a little bit of a different perspective than you. And yes, the 49ers absolutely fell short. They didn't win the Super Bowl last year. They lost on the last play of overtime. Like a play where I legitimately didn't know what happened next. Like, when he snapped the ball, I had no clue what would happen if they didn't score. I didn't know, do they switch sides? Do they just keep going? Like, what do the 49ers, like, what is about to happen? So they lost to a team that at this point is a dynasty. And I think the thing that I keep getting hung up on, and this is a bit semantics a little bit, but there's a reason I'm thinking this way, talking about the 49ers being better than they were last year. Like, how can they be better? They don't have to be. They just need to be better once. They need to be better in one game. They don't need to be, and I can't remember what, they don't need to be 15-2. They don't need to be, they need to be better in one single game than they were last year. So if they wind up trugging through the regular season, if they look like ass when the playoffs get here, but they get wins. If Christian McCaffrey's not winning awards and Brock Purdy's getting a ton of hate, but you get to the destination, You only have to be better in that one
Yeah.
single game. And you can get to that Super Bowl going, this team is not better than last year's.
Mhm.
And they win that one game, and it does not matter
Facts.
because they won that game.
Yeah, facts. That's facts. I even look at the whole thing. That's the great thing about football, and that's the frustrating thing about football for me sometimes is I hear everything that James is saying about Patrick Mahomes or whatever the case may be. I look at it like they played in a 7-game series. Niners probably win in 6, even with how good Patrick Mahomes is. But they don't, right? It's just the one game. And that's, like I said, that's the beautiful thing about it. It's also the most frustrating thing because I don't want to do the best team didn't win or whatever the case may be. But when you get in one game settings, those things happen. Like I think the best team on that day is the one that wins. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if Kansas City was quote unquote better than Baltimore, but all they had to do was beat them one time,
Mm.
and they did it. And that's Baltimore might have been the best team in football.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They beat the hell out of the Niners.
Mhm.
They might have been the best team in football, but in football, you just got to figure out how to get it done for 60 minutes.
Yeah, but when you do it repeatedly, like the Chiefs have, it's not a one-off. It's not a one-on-one. It's a trend, and they just keep doing it. And so, like Ramsey in the chat mentions Tampa Bay gave the blueprint on how to beat Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, you had Tom Brady. Like that might be the blueprint. Outside of that, like, look, the 49ers have a lot to prove. Brock Purdy has a lot to prove. I mean, he's realistically he's going into his 3rd NFL season, but really it's his second true season as a starting quarterback. And like so many others out there have a ton to prove. I mean, he's not the only one that has this sort of, thing hanging over him that he hasn't won the big one. Look at how many Dak Prescott can't even win a first round game most of the time. Brock Purdy has
Yes.
more career playoff wins than Dak Prescott.
Right.
But you can say that about a lot of other quarterbacks too. Like Josh Allen can't figure out how to get the big win. Lamar Jackson can't figure out how to get the big win. Like you don't figure out how to get the big win because there's somebody who's really, really good at the game of football that sneaks up and beats all these dudes. And it is what it is. Like you have to figure out how to stop him. And that has absolutely nothing to do with Brock Purdy on most fronts. Somebody on the defensive side of the ball has to figure out how to stop that guy. It can't be, hey, Brock, we need you to have a 58-minute time of possession today, and we need you to score every single time. And then we got to hope that Patrick Mahomes doesn't score 6 touchdowns in 48 seconds. I mean, that's the way the NFL is kind of right now.
He'll lose at some point, though. I mean, he already has lost.
Of course he will.
Burrow got him at home with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So you can beat him. You just gotta, when you have opportunities, you gotta take advantage. If you don't, he's shown that he'll come back and get you. But you can get to him. You can get to the team. I'm saying Mahomes, but you can get to the Chiefs team. They make you pay if you don't. Tampa Bay took advantage of every opportunity. Cincinnati took advantage of every opportunity.
Yeah, and I worry about the idea of the 49ers and the Chiefs again, because there's no way it's not in their head. On both fronts, like the 49ers. But if I'm Kansas City, you don't say it publicly, but privately,
they'd have no fear. They'd have no
worries. They do not want this. Yeah, so that's but it's one of the great things about football. Thank you, Mark. Mark just sent $20 into the abyss.
Hey, can we?
Well, let's answer his question.
Can we change the account number.
I gotta.
Yeah, you guys gotta figure that one out.
I gotta figure out how to do that.
Yeah, he did that for us
in the description.
I think he did that yesterday for us. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate you. Odyssey is very thankful. We should do at least answer his question. Should the Kings have kept any of the following: Nemi, Wayne, or Dante?
I think he's talking about DiVincenzo, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nemias Queta, is Wayne and Gabriel, or Dante DiVincenzo? So
yes,
$20
no, yes.
question right there.
Yeah, yes,
Yes?
no, yes.
No, yes. So we had a rather humorous call
Mm.
earlier from our man Lewis, who was talking about Mia's Katie. This actually, let's start with Rob Williams, because that's what started all of this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is a line in a write-up about the Kings have expressed interest in Rob Williams, and you've got about 25 on the books for Rob Williams over the next 2 years, backup center. Your thoughts on Rob Williams? Have you heard any rumors about this outside of what we learned today? Like, is this realistic? Is it worth it? What's your opinion here on this Rob Williams note that dropped today?
Yeah, so like for me, I haven't heard anything on this front. I actually haven't been digging on it either. This was sort of like a rumor that was snuck in like 2 months ago, and just like, hey, the Kings might be one of the teams that are interested. So I don't know if it's being regurgitated. I also don't know the author at all. And that's why where like not to be disrespectful, but like I got to vet who it is. It's putting it out there into the world. For me, like, look, this is a supremely talented young player who does a lot of things that the Kings could really use. He's long, he's athletic, he can defend the perimeter as a big. Um, he would be a perfect lob threat for Malik Monk. On the downfall, uh, number one, he can't play with Sabonis really. He like throughout his career, he's taken 4 3-point shots and missed all 4 of them. So he can't space the floor. He doesn't space the floor as like a mid-range jump shooter either. This is a guy who's pretty limited on the offensive end and is stellar defensively. I mean, there was a point a couple of years ago where he was 7th in Defensive Player of the Year and second team All NBA defensive team. Like, look, if you could get him for cheap, like, why not take a gamble? But that's what it is. It's a huge gamble. I mean, he played 6 games last year, I think it is. He's missed major time in multiple seasons, and these aren't because he broke a finger or, had a shoulder injury or something. He's missed major time due to knee injuries. And so I'm a little apprehensive about moving what would be, in order to get him, you're going to have to come up with something. So whether it's Trey Lyles and going over the cap, or it's Kevin Herter and maybe taking on another contract from Portland, like it would be a gamble, and I'm not sure that it's something that just fits so perfectly that you would say, yeah, that's the right solution here. That's the answer. So again, it's like my friend Kyle said earlier on the Insiders, if we're gonna bash on guys like Lauri Markkanen or Brandon Ingram because they can't stay on the court enough, this is a guy who can't stay on the court at all. And the Kings have become one of the teams in the league that lead the league in fewest games missed every year, and it's because they don't have a player like this on their roster. So I love the idea of Robert Williams, and I think he has one of the great nicknames in the game. But I don't know that I like the practicality of it.
Well, the difference between those two guys, though, clearly is the price. Like, you give up Marketing and Ingram, you're giving up potential future stars on your team or whatever the case may be. The Rob Williams price, well, maybe you're still giving up future stars, because if you give up a 2031 second rounder,
it's a big deal.
then I mean that's
well, if you give up the second rounder after the pick swap, what are you going to do, man? 2031 is just
so maybe that's a potential star as well. But no, it's like I would like to take a chance on him. I don't know if the Kings are in the position, asset wise, to pay what I think me and you both think would be comfortable paying, which is virtually nothing, or a dumping a salary, or a guy that isn't in your rotation and you don't necessarily have plans for, to bring in Rob Williams. You talk about a Trey Lyles, you talk about Keon Ellis, you talk about even an Alex Lynn. I wouldn't be willing to trade any of those guys for Rob Williams just because of his uncertainty with his health. So I guess they just don't have that type of guy anymore. Like Sasha would have been perfect. You know what I mean? Sasha would have been a guy that you had no plans for, you're ready to move on from, and you use him to get a guy like Rob Williams. They don't have that Sasha type player that matches the salary or comes close to it. I don't think on that roster. Is that about right, James?
Yeah, they as of today, they don't have like a straight up player that would make sense, right? Now you could wait 60 days and from the day of the trade, which is only like 30 days from now, and you could trade McDaniels and Trey Lyles and do like a straight up swap because that would be right around the same money.
Gotcha.
Um,
So
there,
real quick, James. So you do have to
yeah,
wait some time before you could trade McDaniel. That's what because we mentioned McDaniels, but we weren't sure if there was a time limit. That's like the December 6th day or whatever, 15th that we always circle. But it's just 60 days from the trade. And like you said, it's that 60 days will be up well before the start of the season, huh?
yeah, that 60 days we're already at like 24 days in. So yeah. So basically, when a player is traded, you can instantly turn around and trade him again. But you can't trade him again in aggregate, which means you can't attach another player to him, right?
Mm.
And like, look, I think there are other ways to clear cap space. We've talked about this before, but there's also this thing out there that you can trade your mid level exception um, to a like basically for nothing.
Mhm.
So and Robert Williams fits into the mid-level exception. He's got 2 years left, and his contract for this year is like 12.4 million. The problem is the Kings are hard capped at 78 million. So if they could drop below, like say 64 million, they could drop down and shave $5 million off their salary right now.
Mhm.
Then they could actually just say, "We'll give you Portland. We'll give you 2 second-round picks, and accept them into our mid-level exception." But that would require some work. So yeah, like there are some things that the Kings could do here to make the money work. They could also like the problem is if you don't match salaries here in a trade or come really close to it, then the Kings are going to be over the luxury tax and they'll be a tax team. And so yeah, it's complicated, but if you're really motivated to make this move, I think you probably could. You could probably offer a team a second round pick for Jalen McDaniels and have him go into somebody else's biannual exception where you're not getting anything back from them and you're just sending somebody out to move salary. And then boom, all of a sudden you might have the money to free up to go make a trade. Or you could see if they would take Herter and roll the dice and see if that makes sense to you. Maybe Herter and something else and you throw in something. There's ways to balance this thing out. But again, just remember the idea of Robert Williams and the reality of Robert Williams are two totally different things when it comes to a guy with like a long, long history of knee injuries.
Does Rob Williams make sense to you? Or I'm sorry, dump that. Does Rob Williams for Kevin Herter make sense to you?
That's really tough because like if you were getting, the Time Lord, sure. But I don't think you are. So that would be a tough pull because I think Kevin Herter is an asset you might be able to use to get something bigger down the road. And I also think Kevin Herter could be a really valuable piece to your team because you're going to need some 3-point shooting. So yeah, tough.
This is not going to. I feel like you could use the same sentence that you just used with Rob Williams with Kevin Herter. The idea of Kevin Herter might actually be better than Kevin Herter.
Yeah, but the
It's for
practice.
different reasons. It's not for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's for different reasons, and I understand that. I don't know. I'm expecting a lot from Kevin Herter this year. I think Kevin Herter is very, very capable this year. But I also understand people who would say, yeah, the idea of like Kevin Herter. I would understand if someone said Kevin's closer to what we saw last year than what we saw the year before.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't
Well, I mean,
agree. I wouldn't agree, but I wouldn't fight with someone who said that.
statistically speaking, they'd be right. I mean, throughout his career, he averaged just under like 12 points a game before he got to Sacramento. Then he goes up to 15.3 or 15 point whatever it was, and this year he dropped down to 10.6, whatever.
He's like literally right in the middle.
Right.
Like his career is basically
Yeah.
in the middle of these two extreme years with Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes in order to I don't know, to shake things up, you do need to go out there and do something that just like reshapes your roster. It would give you a true power forward slash center combo. He's more of a center, but if you had him play with a guy like Trey Lyles, where Trey Lyles is stretching the floor and he's roaming underneath, it might work. But it's tough because the injuries are just such a red flag, and I almost don't want to be the team that like gambles on it. Although at this point it's a $25 million gamble. If it didn't work out in year one and you know this guy's not going to play and you can't trade him the next season, you could always stretch provision and just break his contract up into 4 million over 4 million for 3 straight years or something.
Yeah, I want to take a chance on Rob Williams. Like I said, the price has to be right. The price has to be right, but the upside, if it's just a situation where, you know, he had some nagging injuries early, they've got him fixed. Maybe you got confidence in your training staff, a la Grant Hill in Phoenix, a la Sean Livingston in Golden State, and you can keep him healthy. And the other thing about that too is his workload wouldn't be as great as it was in Boston. He's a backup, and maybe you could preserve him a little bit more that way. If he can play, he was a game changer in Boston. He was an absolute game changer. And he, like you said it earlier, he fits a need that you have in that front court. So once again, it's all about the price. If the price is right, Drew Carey and Bob Barker, if the price is right, I'd take a chance.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But I also think that there are players out there that with less of a risk that have equal to or higher than ceiling. And again, I think where I would kind of stop is with when it comes to including Herter, because I think Herter is a trade chip, and not only a trade chip but a player that might actually really help you when you went out and signed a really good but 35 soon to be 35-year-old who doesn't shoot the three. You probably need as much shooting on this roster as possible to go around him.
If you prioritize the position, and we'll stay in the caliber of player that Rob Williams is, would you go another backup big? If you thought like I will add one more to the Kings from this tier of player, what is that the direction you would go?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's got to be someone. Well, I mean, the perfect fit.
You probably want someone at the 4-5.
Yeah, a 4-5 that can shoot the ball though. And well, I don't know. Like this is a really, really good, really, really good defensive player. Like it's kind of like last year you went out and like late in the offseason you signed JaVale McGee. And there's a couple of problems. Number one, like the age thing and years of service, all that stuff. Like JaVale McGee, the idea of him was probably he wasn't anywhere near what the idea was. But I bring him up because like if you looked at 26-year-old JaVale McGee, it's kind of, they're very impactful players. They're one-dimensional on the offensive end, and on the defensive end, I think Robert Williams is one of the most versatile players that you can possibly get for a big man as far as defensively. I mean, he's all over the court and he has an ability to really, really defend. So, but it doesn't matter how good of a defender he is if he can't stay on the court, that doesn't matter. So
it's Olympic gold medalist JaVale McGee, by the way. Multi-time NBA champion JaVale McGee.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right. I was just wondering because I can't say another big was really on my radar. I was thinking more of guys like who can stretch and shoot, but I completely understand the idea. I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't know Rob Williams was out there like that, though. Anything on Portland makes sense, just like anything on Washington makes sense. I feel like Detroit has a direction just without a leader. I don't really know what Detroit's doing, but yeah, it just wasn't on my radar. Kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I'll listen, but not optimistic on that one.
no,
Not optimistic on that one at all. Though I don't know what Portland's looking for either. I mean, there's probably a million ways that you could dissect this. Like, what is Portland trying to do? And that's always the number one thing is like, what direction is the team that has this? Where are they going? And that's the thing Casey and I got stuck on earlier is we both really like the players on the Portland Trailblazers and agree they're probably the worst team in the conference. Roster-wise, it does not feel like they should be that. But roster-wise, in terms of them as individuals, the individual players, it doesn't feel like they should be the worst team in the Western Conference. But I don't know that anyone doesn't think that they will be or won't be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're going to struggle for sure. And they've got talent, but again, the talent there versus say like the talent in Houston, where the talent in Houston is shown like major development, where we're still waiting to see what Shaden Sharp is going to be. We're still waiting to see what Scoot's going to be, right? I think we have a better idea of what Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün and, name that player in even Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore. Like, I think we have a better idea of what those players are than what Portland has to, as far as young players at this point. And then there's all this, rumor and innuendo that no one expects Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant to be on the team by the start of training camp, and they think that they're going to shop all those guys. And so, like, yeah, what direction are you going in? What exactly is happening here? How do you get out of this mess that you've created for yourself? And they're really high salary wise. They're at 164 million. They're only a few million underneath the luxury tax, and then we would think that they're trying to build the base and start young and build through the draft. But then they go out and I know he is young, Denny Avdija, but they went out and traded two first-round picks for Denny Avdija. And it's like, well, if you're starting and you're trying to build, what are you doing making that move? What are you doing making the Ayton move? You know what I mean? You're kind of confused with the identity of the roster. And that's something like it's very Sacramento Kings-esque from like 2007 to 2018. Very all over the board.
Don't ever go 2007-18 Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. The other thing that I just thought about too, with reason why they may be moving on from Robert Williams, I forgot they drafted Klingon at center. So Ayton and Klingon. What you gonna do with Rob Williams?
Yeah, send him to Sacramento for a second-round pick swap in 2031.
There we go.
We'll come back.
That's a little. When I said the right price,
okay,
come on now.
My bad.
Settle down. That's a little too rich for my blood, as they like to say.
We'll come back. We'll talk more with James Ham here as Dylan and Casey continue on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320. Y'all are funny today in the chatty house, huh?
You are funny.
No, they're getting their jokes off. All right, I see y'all.
The Abyss
actually doesn't make us laugh.
Y'all got the funny ha-has going on right there.
I like it. The Abyss starring Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio. Is that her name? I think there might have been a Tom Skerritt sighting in that movie as well. That's a good film.
Ed Harris. What is he in?
Glengarry Glen Ross, The Right Stuff, Needful Things. Did you remember Needful Things?
So if I recognize him.
Yeah, you'd recognize. He's in the second.
But you can't say anything on this stupid ass show.
He's in the second National Treasure movie.
What do you want to say?
I think you know what I was going to say. I'm not going to say it. Oh no, I'll say it. God damn it. I'm a grown ass man. I can say this.
Yep.
The only Harris that I'm worried about is Wood. No, this is his name. Don't do that. This is his name. What you want me to say? What you want me to say? I'm a grown ass man. It's the man's name.
Yeah, it's the way you said it. You know what you did.
You know what you did.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to. I'm just talking about the great Wood Harris.
Now, see, there's nothing wrong with what you just said there. When you say Wood Harris, that's no problem. When you said the only Harris I'm worried about is Wood, well, there's going to be a problem with that.
That's a man's name.
Still not as bad as what Lewis said. Lewis
Trying to
said, "You
think.
know me, I love a big man."
Uh-oh.
Lewis, and talk like that on this show.
Man, I'm trying to find The Rock. Ed Harris was in The Rock. He's the bad guy.
I see him. I recognize him.
Yeah. He's a great
He
actor.
was in The Rock.
Yeah, he's the bad guy that's leading the
I remember that. I remember
the
commercials.
terrorist group, but he's the
I thought
military
that
team
was,
they sent in.
I
Yeah.
thought that was Bokeem Woodman. Wow. Okay.
Glenn Ross. He was in National Treasure 2. He's the great grandson of.
Oh, you're talking about Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll just sit here. I'll just sit here and shut the
Are you
hell
talking
up.
about Wood Harris?
That's what I thought he was talking about. I was like, I do not remember him in that movie at all.
Needful Things is awesome. That's a movie I quote all the time.
Needful Things.
The great J.T. Walsh. I just killed my wife. Is that wrong? Yeah.
That sounds cheerful.
Max Vaughn. Oh man, what's his name? I think he just died.
Bokeem Woodman is in The Rock, so that makes me feel better.
Okay. Max von Sherman? Max von. It's a Stephen King book, Needful Things. He comes into town, and all of a sudden, people start doing crazy things. They're like everyone's killing each other and stuff.
That's just crazy.
It's fun though.
Nothing like a little murder. There's been a murder in Savannah. Coming back, James. Man, these people who make push notifications alert, they're sharp. They make me like I want to.
Who got you this time?
People.
Oh,
People magazine says how one man survived a shark attack and why he got back in the water. No, I'm very curious why this man got back in the water.
he said lightning can't strike twice.
He doesn't have a leg anymore, so he.
Oh gosh!
Wow.
Man, he really down there with these sharks. Oh, he one of them military guys. He a tough dude. Yeah, he just go hard. Oh my God, does he not have an arm either? Buddy, you lost your arm and leg, and you just went back into their house. And that arm, now that little bionic arm he has looks pretty badass, though. But still, like, no.
It is Shark Week this week.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
is Sharknado coming on?
Shout out to Modern Family. It's on right now.
Have you ever? Yes, it is.
Is John Cena doing Shark Week? Is he the one running Shark Week this time? I think so.
Maybe, I don't know. I saw an show with the guy who played Ant-Man, the black guy. What's his name?
The guy,
or not Ant-Man? What did he? What's the guy? He's in Marvel. He's the Falcon. Maybe is that what he did?
The black guy.
Yeah.
The guy who played Tupac.
Yes,
Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie.
That's right, Mackie.
Have you ever watched Sharknado?
Yeah, I did.
Me too.
I watched it and I was like, this is awful, but I'm glad I saw it.
Sharknado has to be like one of the first, if not the first, like social media movie where it came out and people saw it and so many people tweeted about it that whoever it was, re-aired it and like 5 times as many people watched it.
It was
I think the first one to really catch social media like that was Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. That feels a little pre-social media though, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like Snakes on a Plane was a movie theater one. Wasn't that in the movie theaters?
Yes,
it was. It was.
So it wasn't like, hey, we're gonna re-air this. It was kind of that's Samuel L. Jackson, isn't
it?
Snake on a Plane?
I actually think I'm thinking of it. That was 2006. I'm actually I think I'm thinking of a different Black Snake.
What?
Yeah, black. Yeah,
Whoa!
Black Snake.
Yo,
no, there's
what's this guy talking about? Yo.
Black Snake Moan is the other Samuel L. Jackson movie that came out in 2006.
Play on.
No, What?
playoff.
I ain't even gonna ask you what the title is again.
The
No, I'm
movie's
not doing
called
that.
Black Snake Moan, and it's starring Samuel L.
Oh,
Jackson
Hey,
and Justin Timberlake.
come on, man. Hey,
He ran out of bounds, but he made his way back onto the field. Okay.
The film made $10 million on a $15 million budget.
That thing was on the cart path. Go ahead and swing away. I don't care if sparks fly. Go ahead and swing away.
Somebody get these damn snakes off of this damn plane.
That's exactly what he said. Mother bleep and snakes on a
Yeah,
I would not
Sharknado
be
was
happy.
amazing. They had sharks falling out of the sky, eating people. Oh, spectacular.
That was
Oh yeah.
crazy.
absolutely spectacular.
Movie. Mm, mm.
You had to be there. I need to see.
Another one that was like that was I don't think it lasted. The impact didn't last as long as Sharknado, but the Sandra Bullock when she was blind or not blind but blindfolded.
The Bird. What was that movie
The Bird.
called?
It was The Bird.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah,
The Bird?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it's
Bird
it's
Nest.
bird something.
Bird Cage.
Maybe.
We are. I swear to God, we're useless sometimes. We are so freaking useless.
And I'm like, yeah, it was called The Bird.
Morris Day. That's what it's called. It's called Morris Day in the Time.
You know the movie with Sandra Bullock?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bird Box.
Bird
Bird
Box.
box.
That's what it is.
Dang it.
A lot of people were like intrigued by that movie, and then they would watch it and they'd be like, this was stupid. But man, they went crazy on Netflix for about a week on that one.
Mm. Yeah, Birdcage was with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. Good call, Spectre.
You know
and
how
it's a very different movie than Bird
the
Box.
YouTube users are going to be so pissed off when Jesse titles this something pertaining to the Kings, and we're talking about Bird Box.
Oh, it's gonna be should the Kings make a move for like this big man
Oh,
or
the
something like that.
YouTube users.
Yeah.
Just know we know you're out there. They're going to be so pissed off at
Those are my
Jesse.
favorite comments.
Okay. All right. Enough of Sharknado. All right. So I guess we settled the Robert Williams discussion.
Yeah.
One thing we did discuss earlier, though, I wonder what James got to say is just where the Kings are at in relation to the West. Yesterday, I wanted to actually bring this up and talk to you guys about it. Yesterday, I asked Trista, a national outside of Sacramento observer, although she with us, but still, like what you think. And she said, I believe that the Kings are locked into the top six. I think they're that good of a team. But she said, I wouldn't, not so fast. And she talked about mostly one of the big concerns is bringing DeMar DeRozan in, and that how does Keegan Murray react to that? That's basically what it was. Does he kind of shy away and fall back and kind of his production?
That was the anonymous executive's concern.
Right. Is that what happens with Keegan Murray, or they don't talk about the opposite, like he excels? But James, do you think that's a legit concern that maybe Keegan Murray, becomes even more passive?
Well, if he does, that's on him. In all honesty, like he's got a part of his maturation is not just like being better defensively or passing the ball better or jumping higher or hitting more shots. A part of his maturation is asking for the ball, demanding the ball, taking the ball and going and making the most of your opportunities. So I would say this. I think a lot of people were willing to wait around and see if Keegan Murray could deliver the Kings to the next level. And to me, that's crazy. I mean, that's really, it's like sending a droid out into space searching for Obi-Wan Kenobi and hoping that he can be your only hope. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a Star Wars reference. I know, but like at the end of the day, like you can't just like expect this 23-year-old kid to take another gigantic leap so big that it surpasses any loss that you might have had and makes you so much better. And when you bring in a guy like DeMar DeRozan, you basically just bought Keegan Murray another year or two to develop, right? You bought another year or two for him to become the player that you hope he's going to be. And last time I checked, DeMar DeRozan is 5 times the passer that Harrison Barnes ever dreamed of being. he's just so much better as a creator. And now you're going to walk into a game with 3 of your starting 5 averaging 5 assists or more. And so the beneficiary to that is clearly going to be a player like Keegan Murray, who's going to be so open all the time. And I don't know, did you guys see the George Niang come unglued on Ben Simmons on the Richard Jefferson podcast? I don't know if you guys saw this, but
I didn't see this.
What did
This
Ben
sounds hilarious.
Simmons do to anybody?
No, oh, you said Ben Simmons. I thought
no,
he
Ben
said-
Simmons.
Oh,
No,
Ben
on Ben Simmons. No, he
Oh, that's
sat.
that's unnecessary.
Yeah, he sat. They asked him if there's a player that just really has got under your skin in your time in the league, and he said, "Yeah." He said, like I know this is kind of old news and stuff, but what Ben Simmons did to him and the Philadelphia 76ers, he said that's just like it's crazy. He's like, I see. George Yang said he signed there very specifically because Ben Simmons was this great creator and he's a catch and shoot guy who shoots 40% from 3. And he's like, I'm signing up to go wander around the perimeter with wide open looks all day long and just launch. And then I get there and he's like, yeah, I don't want to play. And they're like, what do you mean you don't want to play? He's like, I just signed for barely over the league minimum and you don't want to play and you're making $35 million a year. And, he went on to say like, hey, look, he's a guy that if I go up against again, like I might do something dirty. Like we might get in a fight.
All right,
Like
sure.
he's like to leave your team and abandon your people like that. But my point is that having Ben Simmons, like that idea of Ben Simmons is incredible. He's such a phenomenal passer and draws so much attention, and it creates this sort of like shrinking of the court that shooters on the perimeter are going to be wide open playing with him. It's why I've also said like, hey, Kevin Huerter might be a perfect fit alongside DeMar DeRozan in either as a starter or coming in off the bench but playing with DeRozan. Like DeRozan just has an ability to create a lot like Monk does, a lot like De'Aaron Fox does. And then you have this other guy who he's 4th, 5th in the league in assists, and Domantas Sabonis. So I think Keegan Murray, actually, there's potential for him to have like unlimited wide open looks all season long.
Okay.
Sorry if I had to get there through George Niang and weird.
And
But
George Niang needs to settle down.
you guys need to watch it. It's pretty spot on though.
Yeah, sure, but George Niang is
Ben's
he's one missed shot away from being where Patrick Beverly is. Like settled.
Well, they made
settle
Patrick
down.
Beverly an offer he couldn't refuse, sir. Which was an offer.
Maybe make the same one to George. Like
Which was
settle.
to continue playing basketball.
Exactly. Like in all seriousness, I've rooted for this brother. Is Ben Simmons out of the league in a year?
Yeah.
Like seriously, like is Ben Simmons' career over in 1 year?
It depends on, in my opinion, it depends on what he's willing to, what contract he's willing to take. It's not going to be anything close to being lucrative or probably what he wants. It's going to be closer to the league minimum.
He's just going to sign 1 year
vet minimum or
deals
something like that.
moving forward, right? Like no team will ever sign him to a multi-year contract
Absolutely
again.
not. They barely signed him to a multi-game contract.
Well, here's the crazy thing. He just turned 28, and you could see him just like show up and be like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to play 75 games." And then everyone's like, "Man, he's only 28. Should we give him can we put him in the right situation?" This happens all the time in the league where people just keep getting shots, in the league. And, even the few games he did play last year, he still stuffs a stat sheet like crazy. So I'd be concerned about, paying a guy who played 15 games last season. But the 6 rebounds, that 6 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists in 24 minutes a night, it still stands out, especially if he's a defender. But he's going to have to reset and I don't know. He's got 1 year to prove he belongs in the league still.
Well, and what Ben Simmons, right now, he doesn't have to do anything because the money's guaranteed or whatever. But next off season or spring or whenever his season ends, he's going to have to, I believe, I would probably advise him, you're gonna have to start talking. Like, go on some podcasts, and we need to hear and see from you how much you want to continue playing this game. Like, I want to
Mhm.
hear you say, I'm really, upset with the injury history. I really want to play. I think there's so much more left to my game. That's what I'd have to see to even think about signing you.
Let me ask you something. Why do you think we need to hear that, though?
Well, it's not me and you, it's the GMs.
But
And then
why
it's the,
can't he say that to the general managers as opposed to Paul George's podcast?
Mm,
Here's
I-
why I'm asking.
That's a good point,
Here's
but
why here's
I don't
why I'm
know.
asking. Because that line of, well, we have to hear from you, we have to hear from you, reminds me of someone. Reminds me of Cap.
Hmm.
For years, guys like Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, they went on their little radio shows. Well, we got to hear from Colin Kaepernick. Does he want to play football? He might just want to be an activist. He might want this. He might want that. Every general manager in the league knew exactly what he wanted. He didn't go on their stupid little radio shows to tell them what he wanted.
Mhm.
And that was their problem. He didn't go on people's podcasts. He didn't create a podcast. I still don't think that man has spoken, but they knew what he wanted. So
that's
if the general managers know, they know.
I hear what you're saying. I'd advise Ben Simmons to go.
I hear you.
Somebody's going to a podcast, P, and
Just
and
don't go
talk
on the
about what's
Draymond
going
Green
on.
show.
No, don't.
oh boy.
Don't do that. I'd advise him to go talk, and at the very least, with him. And I understand
He
some of the
did one.
comparisons.
This was a while ago. He did a podcast with somebody. It might have been JJ.
I think it was JJ.
He
I think
did
it
a
was
podcast
JJ.
with somebody.
Yeah, I think it was JJ. But I'd advise him. I hear what you're saying.
No,
I'd say, that could help everything with your career.
You know, it would speak louder than him going in any podcast.
It was
Is-
JJ.
JJ.
Yeah, is if he went and played for the Australian national team, or like Kyle and I talked about this yesterday. Like, DeMar DeRozan's out there playing in the Drew League, right?
Yeah, I feel like he'd catch heat if he played for the national team.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at some point, like, you got to prove that you actually want to play basketball.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I feel like right now, because of the position he's in right now, he has to do that in the league. Like,
Yeah.
he can't do it anywhere else. Like, he has to, like, show in the league, because if he goes to Australia and plays and then comes back and something happens in training camp, God forbid, then it's like, oh, this guy. No, if you're going to go down in the league and then figure everything else out later.
I don't know. I kind of feel what Ham is saying. Like,
I think he'd catch major heat if he plays for the Australian national team.
I think that and Ham just kind of touched on it a little bit. I don't think. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are plenty of people that get upset with him because of his injuries.
Mhm.
But even more than that, there's just a big question about whether or not he even cares about playing basketball.
Absolutely.
And at
I've
the
asked
very
that
least,
question. Yeah.
you go and play in Australia. Like, okay, at least I can see a glimmer that he wants to play basketball. If his back isn't right and he gets hurt, that's something that's out
But
of
if
his
you're
control.
a Brooklyn Nets fan and you see him playing in Australia, aren't you feeling it some type of way?
I mean, I wouldn't if he's cleared to play now. If he wasn't cleared to play or wasn't able to play in February, then that's one thing. If he was cleared to play in June and he's going out and playing with the national team,
So you don't think they're going to say, bro, we paying you $35 million. I'll pay your salary to come play here, and you over there playing for pride? You don't think that's the thing?
I mean, maybe, but the question isn't his health in that situation. It's him wanting to play. So if he comes back to Brooklyn and he's healthy and is just like, I just don't feel right, I don't want to play. Now you're like, all right, now you're duping me a little bit. Because before you were hurt, you had x-rays, you had doctors saying like, this is what's going on. You went out and played. All right, you showed that you can play. Come back and do the same thing here in Brooklyn. I don't have a problem with you playing. I just want to make sure when you get back to Brooklyn, you're doing the same thing.
All right. Well, we don't agree.
I think the question is, can he even
James
make a
and
play?
KC coming up tomorrow, and I'll just do the insiders with Kyle.
There it is. The Ben Simmons 4-hour marathon.
Call it all jacked up like they did at 95.7. Oh,
Jacked up. That was good.
It was brought to you by Jack's Restaurant. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
It was brilliant. All right. I don't even. How did we get to Ben Simmons? But how the
we-
hell did we get
oh,
there?
that was my fault. I talked about George Niang.
Okay.
No, I was talking about like having someone who will set you up. That's what I you know.
Oh, and then I ran with it because I asked if Ben Simmons is going to be out of the league.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. But just think next year, Ben Simmons, if he would take a league minimum deal, put him in the starting lineup alongside DeMar DeRozan, alongside Keegan Murray. I'm just kidding.
At this
I'm
point,
about to say, starting lineup.
I just hope Ben can play a season in the NBA. Y'all talking about national team and Drew League. Get through this year because there is absolutely nothing. Or take that back. I'm sorry. There's very little in Ben Simmons' history that says he's going to get through this entire year.
Oh, nothing in his tough.
But I hope
tough
he can
look.
do it. Just as I hope Joel Embiid could do it.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the new thing. Someone doesn't play, and then it's put out. Oh yeah, no. Joel Embiid playing versus Puerto Rico. All
Is
right.
that out?
Yeah, it's right here. Embiid to start next game. Joel to play versus Puerto Rico after DNP CD on Wednesday.
That one, well, so
It's the
here's
same
the other
thing.
thing about that real quick. Now we kind of see, at least people have a feel for what Steve Kerr seems to be doing. Seems to be strictly based on matchups. And if it's strictly based on matchups, obviously it didn't feel like this South Sudan game was a good matchup for Joel.
Well,
The next one would be a better one.
What you called at the beginning of the game. This appears to be Steve's quote. This is the fastest team in the tournament we're going to play. We wanted to match up. They play 14 threes against us in London. They made 14 threes against us in London. The whole game was going to be about switching and staying in front of people. We talked about that at the beginning of the game, that Joel is probably a little too slow to play the way that this South Sudan team plays.
So now that we know that seems to be how that coaching staff is going about it, it's a little bit more digestible, I guess.
LeBron, Steph, Book, Drew, and Joel will start versus Puerto Rico on Friday.
Wait, Friday? I thought they played Sunday.
I got Friday in the tweet. I could be wrong. Let me read again.
You might be right.
I got Friday.
That's an early game then. I think that's like a 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. game.
I don't want that. Well, what are we going to do at noon? It's Friday. These watch-alongs have been fun.
Yeah. Women play tomorrow?
Well, if they're not, I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. They haven't played in 2 days.
They're trying to get to their destination.
They're probably catching the train there now.
Oh,
I believe they do play tomorrow.
Saturday morning is what the streets are saying.
Who's Saturday morning?
The
women?
men's. Yeah, the men. Because they play a morning game. I thought it was, they say it's Saturday. I thought it was Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. But
Okay. I was just reading a tweet. I swear the tweet said Friday.
we've got Kings legend Isaiah Pinheiro on that Puerto Rican team.
He's one of my favorites of all time. For
Yep.
being
Placer High
being-
School. Placer High School.
He's probably in my top 5.
Yeah.
Kings players of all time.
The
Him and
women
Philip
play-
Petrusev went at it today. They almost got into a scuffle.
Well, you see who starts for Greece at center.
The Papa G.
Yeah. His
Yeah.
starter.
But Yorgis is a baller over there.
Yeah, it goes to work.
He's like super Yorgis over there. Like he can cook.
Absolutely goes to work. Men play Saturday morning, women play Sunday morning. Well, the women might play before that too. Yeah, they play. They play tomorrow during the show.
Okay, good. And the damn tweet said Friday.
Damn it.
Stupid tweet.
Irresponsible tweeting.
That's what it is. Who would irresponsibly tweet? Goodness sakes. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm ready for that game, baby. Watch along tomorrow. D'Lo and
Who they got
Casey.
tomorrow?
Is it?
I don't
It's
know.
BEL.
Yeah, I was about to
Belgium.
say, yeah,
Belgium.
guess so.
Yeah.
Belgium.
Probably Belgium.
Yeah, they've lost 3 in a row. Oh, nope, they haven't. They've lost. Nope, yep. They've lost 3 in a row.
Oh,
Hasn't
Wow.
gone well for Belgium in the Olympics lately. That's all right. That's all right. Hey, are you ever doing another Kings Beat podcast, happy hour, virtual?
yeah. We're
Because
gonna.
I think you should invite Tim Bontemps because I want to talk to him.
Oh, okay. I could reach out to Tim. That might work.
Ask Tim Bontemps about the dreaded pick swap of 2031.
No, he got to answer that. He said it's
No.
the most valuable asset in that trade.
Oh, Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Come on.
tough. It's a tough
Yeah.
look.
Yep.
Whew.
Oh, Tim Bontemps. No, okay, I interrupted you. Are you really doing one?
Yeah, we're supposed to do it next week. We did one
Oh,
like a couple of weeks ago.
well, you
Yeah.
did, but you said you were kind of easing back into things, and
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering if we're getting the big.
Yep. Yeah, I might be able to reach out. It depends if Tim is in Paris still.
Perry.
Oh, I
If he
didn't know.
is, he might not be, but he also very well could be. So
All right, we'll be
that's
on
my
the
guy.
lookout for that. Don't forget, just because he's a big time, full time radio host now doesn't mean he still doesn't drop the Kings Beat newsletter. Make sure you head over to kingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber over there. That way you could be a part of the happy hour and ask Tim Bontemps why he's crazy.
Why do you
Whenever
hate the
Tim Bontemps.
Kings?
Yeah, why do you hate the Kings would be a great question.
I don't want to hate the Kings.
That would be a great question to start. We appreciate you so much for being with us. We will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m., beginning with the Insiders on Sacramento Sports Leader ESPN 1320.